Hello, everybody. Welcome back for episode 19. I'm actually starting to lose count of the Unlimited Range podcast. I'm Jack. This is my dad, Dean, and it is Halloween, so it's a specialty episode of the Unlimited Range podcast.
Spooktober. It's
I wasn't.
Spooktacular podcast show here today. We've got all kinds of stuff we got lined up today. I'm
Yeah,
really
we've got
excited to
some
get
good
into it.
stuff lined up. And I've got my Scooby Doo costume on. Winnie chewed one of the ears off of Scooby Doo. So that's kind of a little bit unfortunate, but I think it's kind of a natural, kind of little segue starting point for the podcast here today. It is Halloween. It's depending on how you look at it, it may be possibly an underrated holiday, maybe possibly an overrated holiday. So how about an open-ended start? What do you think about Halloween? What are your some memories, some thoughts, some feelings about the overall holiday? Any way you want to take it?
Yeah, no, I've always enjoyed Halloween as a holiday, especially as a homeowner. It's been fun. We live in an apartment now, so we don't have any trick or treaters, but getting a fire going out front and seeing the kids coming up with their costumes, I always enjoyed that. It was a good time. I'm not really a big dresser upper person, though. I think there's people that
Yeah,
like
I
to
can't
dress up.
honestly recall you having dressed up. I actually got so I wasn't ever so basically I wasn't really I liked Scooby Doo, I guess, kind of as a kid, but it wasn't definitely in my um main rotation, you would say. It definitely wasn't like a top show for me, but I was going last year because I had a work party and I wanted to get a costume. I was gonna try to be like a dragon or something, but turns out it is harder to find a costume as an adult, especially if you're not a woman, and especially if you wear like an XL. So I think my options were like Scooby Doo, Ghost, or like weird TV show character. So I went with Scooby, and then I figured like the great thing about it as an adult, it's like the same thing with shoes. Like it's weird when you're an adult, you can just get a costume and you can just wear it for like 10 years. So I think I'm just going to be Scooby until this one runs out of gas.
Or to when he gets the rest of it.
Yeah, unless when you choose off the other ear, and then I'll be in bad shape. Um, but yeah, let's talk about a little bit.
What
I
was
think
your
we,
what was your so we should probably do it is Halloween inspired trivia. So I'll do the trivia questions, and then I want to find out maybe as a kid what your favorite
yeah,
costume was that you ever
you
wore.
hate to let me segue you right on into the Dean's trivia question of the week.
I do. I'm sorry. I just feel like
You love
sometimes
to
you're going
jump the
to segue
gun.
somewhere else, and then it's a trust issue, I guess.
So this is Dean's spooktacular trivia question of the week this time
Spectacular
around.
trivia. The bonus. I'm going to give you the bonus first, and because I think it's hard. Now, last week I think it was a little too hard on the trivia last week.
Yeah,
This one's a little.
I think you struck out on trivia last week.
Yeah, I don't think anybody got it last week. But so my bonus trivia for this week, and I know usually you do the bonus second, but I'm going to do it first this week. Is what was the most popular costume choice of 2023? So let people kind of think about that one. I always like it when you think about, oh, I'm going to go back just 1 year, and you almost forget what it was like, what was going on last year. But the trivia question for this year or this week, the main trivia question is, what is the most popular candy to give away on Halloween? And I will make it multiple choice. It is either Snickers, M&Ms, Reese's Cups, or Skittles. So that's your four
So
choice.
I usually let these trivia questions marinate a little bit. And I will say, if you're watching this, stay tuned to the end because you'll get the actual answer. But I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to answer the second one. I think. Again, I haven't researched this at all. I'm going to say it's got to be Reese's Cups. Honestly,
You're going to put Reese's Cups, and we'll come
there's.
back to.
We'll come back to it. Don't give the answer out. Don't confirm that. But I'm going to go ahead and mail in my ballot there. I'm going to say that it's going to be Reese's Cups for sure. As far as the bonus trivia question, I'm wondering. Don't give a hint, but I'm really wondering if that's like one. It's hard when you don't have kids and now you're not a kid anymore because like I feel like I'm finally like away from the knowing what the kids are into kind of thing over the last couple years, and I can't really pinpoint if the most popular costume would be like some kid thing that I've never heard of before, like Bluey or something, or if it would just be like a superhero or something. So I'm actually interested to see what the answer is to that one. But I am submitting my answer for the multiple choice Reese's Cups. And then that's a segue to we have our fan viewership question of the week coming from a big fan of the show, Margaret Engelman, my sister, and your daughter. She's a huge fan of the Limited Range podcast, and she said she just really wanted to be a part of it. So she submitted a question this week, and it's actually
All
kind of
right.
related to the question you just gave, slightly different. Give us your most overrated or underrated Halloween candy. So actually, I
Hmm.
want to preface this. She didn't specify, and I should have asked further. Do you think we should stick with candies you associate with Halloween or just candy? Because there are candies that you wouldn't really receive in your sack for Halloween.
Yeah, I think we should stick with. I think I might have lost you for a second.
No, you're there. Stick with
I
stuff
think
you
we
would
should.
get in your
I think we
sack on
should.
Halloween.
Yeah, I think you should stick with that, not like a candy apple or something crazy like that.
Okay, let's not go crazy then. All right, I'll let you take it first then. Most overrated.
You know,
Let's just give most overrated and most underrated.
well, for me, the underrated one, it's not in that multiple choice I just gave you, is Butterfingers. I always really like the Butterfinger candy
Are they
bar.
underrated though?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know how many people are. I don't buy any candy anymore. So it's, and then the other, overrated. I mean, the Peeps. They now have Peeps for Halloween. I don't know who eats those things for any, either for Easter or Halloween or Christmas. I think that those are way overrated. And I will say this on the candy front, I did used to like candy corn, but I preferred they used to call it like, well, it's probably not politically correct anymore. They used to call it Indian corn when I was growing up. It had brown on it instead of the it replaced one of the other colors. I don't know if it was yellow. I think something, but
I
I
will
did
say
like
this. I
some
will say
candy corn.
this. I am actually a fan of candy corn. I think it is a little bit underrated, hated on unnecessarily. But what I absolutely can't stand are those stupid candy corn pumpkins. Those are
Oh,
terrible.
yeah.
Those ones, like the big ones, just stick to the ones that are normal. Um, when I think of underrated, the first thing that comes to mind is Milk Duds. Uh,
Oh.
I really enjoy and I don't even really like chocolate that much, but I love a Milk Dud. When it comes
I
to
think it's the name.
overrated,
I mean, couldn't they come up with a better name than Milk Duds? I mean, a dud
yeah,
is
it's kind of a
normally
dud.
something
Yeah,
that's.
it's
I
kind
think
of a
that
yeah. They don't get the respect they deserve
no.
at all. And I would answer Butterfinger. Butterfinger's probably my favorite. Um, but I don't really know enough now if they're actually underrated or overrated because at least to me I feel like people like Butterfingers. Um, but I actually will go. Also, I'll throw a couple other names in there. Um, one that is criminally underrated that they're taking off the shelves and it's pissing me off is the Take Five, the one that has it's
It's
like
like pretzels
chocolate.
in it or something.
Yeah, it's like chocolate
Yeah,
pretzel caramel. It's like I think it's called Take Five because there's like five things in there. Um, I love those, and I don't even know if they're around anymore. And then the other one is Heath bars.
Heath
I
bars are.
love
Good. I almost mentioned that one. That's a good one. I do like
the
a.
fact people just Heath just hangs around, and people just how many people I've talked to. They're like, I've never even had a Heath bar.
Yeah,
It's
I think
just
again, I think it's the name. It just
it's the
scares
name
people away.
recognition. It's the
It's
name
like
brand.
weird.
And then
Like,
I'm gonna ruffle some feathers here. Overrated. Reese's cups. I just don't like them. That's actually not true. It's not that I don't like them. It's more I just don't. I don't get the hype at all. And when you talk about what you just said about like the name recognition, I feel like that's all where it comes from. It's not to do with how good they taste because they're just mediocre.
I think I do like a Reese's cup. I have seen a troubling trend with those where they now have like 16 different flavors of Reese's peanut butter cups. They got giant ones, they got small ones, they got white ones, brown ones, dark chocolate, caramel, all kinds of stuff. I don't really understand why we're proliferating the Reese's cup market with all these extra things. And
Watering down the market.
yeah, and there was two candy bars I had growing up that maybe if somebody's my age that remember that's listening today, it's like one was called a Fifth Avenue, and the other one was called a Clark bar. And they were pretty similar. They were kind of similar to Butterfingers, and they were really. My favorite was a Fifth Avenue. I think Hershey's made those. Um, they were most excellent. I would love to get those in my little basket or whatever. I think I used a pillowcase. Can't remember what I used to
Yeah,
take candy around.
yeah, and let's that's a pillowcase is a good segue because the individual Margaret who gave us her question was a big Halloween pillowcase user. She was known for coming home with quite a bit of candy. That's an
So I
interesting
would say
segue.
I would go so far as to say with Maggie that she could be my unlimited range Halloween person of the day, because your mom was reading something today that they want all the kids off the street by 9 o'clock at night. And and you're like, well, who would be out till 9 o'clock at night? I can tell you one person that would have been Maggie Engelman. She went um, for
Above and
miles and
beyond.
miles and miles, and both you and Jared were home eating all your candy, and she was still out trudging around.
You
And
know, and the most impressive part, and congratulations, Margaret, your unlimited range Halloween edition player of the week. Um, the other thing that made her so prolific is that she didn't really even eat the candy. It was just almost like a sport for her to acquire as much candy as she possibly could. Because I mean, she did like herself a little bit of candy, but it was almost like the thrill of the chase.
we did
Because
we did have to clear out all the Halloween candy at Easter time. And you think, oh well, who would have candy still at Easter? Maggie still had candy at Easter, and we would have to divvy it up or get rid of it, because we had a whole new, that's a whole nother candy holiday you got going there.
yeah, and so when you think about it, you probably don't remember vividly back to your own childhood. But what is like? Do you have a hallmark, hilarious, funny, any kind of notable memory from a Halloween?
I was thinking about that today. Like, we didn't have money much money. It certainly didn't go to a costume store. That was not in the budget at the Engelman household when I was growing up. So, I pretty much was a hobo every year, and that again is probably another coin of a term that I'm not allowed to use anymore. But yeah, and I had this mask that was like, you might see it on some of those old like mobster movies. It's like kind of clear, but then they had like eyebrows on it and like lips and stuff like that. So it kind of distorted your face. And then I put some kind of hat on or something in that, and just some old roughed up clothes and things, and go around as a hobo.
How did you field questions when like adults were like, What are you this year?" Just I'm a
They
straight
didn't really
guy.
ask. I mean, your mom always makes fun of this thing. I said, like, in my neighborhood growing up, the first thing they would ask you is, "Do I know you?" Um, and then there's two ways to go about this. You could just lie and be like, "No," because if they don't know you, they're not going to ask who you are and try to guess you. If you say yes, they're going to try to guess you, and that actually takes longer.
Oh, so
So I
you were
would
all about speed, and so you were all about speed and efficiency, get in
Well,
and
I
out.
didn't like to lie, so I actually would, if I knew him, I would shake my head yes. But I didn't want to say anything because I would kind of give it away, especially if I did know him. But I was pretty truthful on that. But it would have been to my advantage with getting candy if I was not as truthful for that.
Yeah, I don't. I think for me, I was never tremendously. I did like the candy, but I was not tremendously motivated to be out there all that time. I didn't like to. I didn't really like to make the entire round across the entire neighborhood. I was more of a hit the big houses. I kind of was able to identify who had the stuff that I needed. Um, I think one thing I remember from Halloween that didn't gel with what a lot of people were doing was, yeah, I definitely wasn't a go to every door. If I have to go up a long driveway just to get like one or two small pieces of candy, that's not really worth my time. So it's kind of like I was talking about this with my friend Logan the other day. It's kind of like profit loss analysis. It's kind of like risk reward. It's like, do I want to skip two driveways and get a king size candy bar, or do I want to go all the way up and down these two driveways just for like one little miniature pack of candy? Um, I also think as
So
far
did
as
you so
cost,
did you ask the kids coming down the driveway like what they have?
yeah, that was a big one. Like, hey, what do they got up there? Um, what are they handing out? And if I hear it's like Hershey's Kisses or something, or the people that
Oh
give out
gosh.
pencils, it's like it's okay to skip that one. Oh, that's another one. We don't probably don't need to spend. I'm just going to take a stance right now on the people that give out pencils and school supplies. I bet those people are really sweet people, but that sucks.
Yeah,
That
I mean that's not the whole point of this thing. I mean, it's
that's
really the
limited. That I'll tell you that's
that is
limited range players of the week. Limited range player of the week. Unlimited range is Margaret for always trooping through and getting his
Halloween, yeah.
maximum candy. Limited range player of the week goes to all the adults out there that pass out school supplies or
Apples, healthy
apples
snacks.
or like floss. I've seen people do floss.
Oh my gosh.
Um,
Toothpaste or something? Like
it's
what
like
are they
what
doing?
364 other days of the year you can advocate for healthy choices. That's not just not what Halloween's about. It's not if you don't want to participate, then just keep your light off. Don't put a bowl out there and just watch your TV or do whatever. But I am not with passing out pencils, erasers, apples, floss. And you agree with me on that?
I do. Think that that's we never did that, and
That sucks.
I do know that there's definitely some people out there. I don't know what the number percentage is that like hard candy, like prefer the Skittles kind of thing more than chocolate. I know listener of the show Scott Gigi was a big hard candy. So like what are those things that come in the pack with it? There's a whole bunch of
Oh,
them in there.
yeah. Why am I
Shoot.
blanking on that?
I don't know, but lollipops, like all that kind of stuff, like he really
What
was
are
into
those
it.
called?
Our neighbor downstairs, she's a big gummy worm kind of thing and all that. But yeah, so I think it's good to if you're handing out candy to have some stuff like that. Skittles is always a good one because although I think it is probably one of the more bad for you candies to eat with all the weird stuff they have in
I'm
there.
getting really irritated. I can't remember what those little candies are called. Lifesavers?
No, well, there is
Or are
lifesavers,
you
but these
talking
are
about
like
Smarties?
Smarties. That's what I'm talking about.
Smarties.
Used to like some Smarties.
Yeah, I don't. That's an interesting one to like. I mean,
Lollies.
I
I
like.
like those lollies too. There's like a big Smartie on a lollipop stick. They
Oh
used to
yeah,
call
yeah.
them lollies. I love those things. When
I'll give another shout out to a friend of the show. My mother. She was notorious for swiping some candy off the pile.
oh yeah, I think well
She was a notorious swiper.
yeah. I mean that's like 10%. Like it's like a 10% tax,
You pay the tax.
candy tax. Yeah, you like and you can choose from whatever it is that comes in. Like
You get the
like
first
here's the
cut.
thing. Like if you've got a bunch of like family members, like it does also pay, I think, big dividends to like actually enjoy candy that other kids don't really necessarily like, specifically like coconut candy. That's usually there's not too many people. What is it, 3 out of 10 that probably like coconut? So if you like coconut, like nobody in our house, I don't think ever ate the coconut candy.
Well,
So
that opens up an interesting question. Back when you were a kid, were you a trader? Did you open up
I
the
didn't really.
sack
I don't
and
think I had anybody to trade with, honestly. I mean, I used to go with Bill Redmond. He used to go trick or treating, but we didn't really go
you guys
back to
didn't trade?
we no, we went back to our house, and I really don't know. Reese's cups and Butterfingers were my favorites. So if I could get those were what I would go for.
Yeah, in our neighborhood when I was a kid, we had we'd usually go out with the some of the neighbor kids that we were friends with and stuff. And I remember trading was a big part of the ordeal. And back in those days, I played a lot of Monopoly, so I feel like um, my
You're
skills were
pretty good
pretty
at the
good
trade.
at.
What were you trading for? Like what were you trying to
Oh,
trade?
just trying to I see somebody with like a good candy bar, and I'd try to maybe get it in their head that candy bar actually wasn't really that good, and I'd give them
Right.
like two pieces of like crap for their. Jared was a really great trade target because I could convince him with the age gap. I could usually convince him that his nice piece of candy was not as good as he thought it was, and he'd usually take the bait. So I could sometimes get that done.
Poor, yeah, that's the classic older brother scenario. Yeah.
Okay, so let's think. The last thing I want to do with the Halloween before we pivot to football. Let's see. What was my you? I guess you didn't really have a whole lot of costumes, but what was your favorite for like the three of us? What was like the favorite costume, if you have one that you remember, or just one of your favorites? Doesn't have to be your absolute favorite.
You know, it was always funny to watch you guys dress up as Power Rangers. I always thought that was funny. I think that was a classic costume. That seemed to do pretty well. I think you had a Credible Hulk one that was pretty good. I Maggie one year dressed up as Betsy Ross. I thought that was pretty classic. You don't see too many Betsy Rosses running around the neighborhood on
Mm.
Halloween, so I thought that was pretty interesting. That would be. What do you remember?
Wasn't Jared Cat in the Hat?
Jared was Cat in the Hat for like a birthday, and like he had a hell Cat in the Hat, like he had a whole Cat in the Hat phase. I think it was.
Well, you were bringing up semi, like what you said, politically correct a couple times. So I didn't know if this is a I don't know if this is something I should share, but I do remember this was pre like internet taking off and pre a lot of knowledge, so it's probably not something I would do now. But I remember, I think I was in like third grade, and I really wanted to be Dante Stallworth, and it's additionally not so great in hindsight because he did strike a pedestrian with his car after
mm,
this.
yeah,
So yeah, he's had some troubled times. But I had also been Stevie Wonder for like a school project, so I already had like this like afro thing that he wore, and
yeah.
then I got like a fake jersey from the Goodwill, I think, or something, and I went as him. And I painted up and everything else like that. So yeah, I had some interesting costumes, but I also was a major costume repeater. I think I was the Red Ranger probably four times. I think I was Iron Man probably at
Oh,
least four
Iron
times.
Man. Yeah,
Yeah, I think I only had four costumes over the years. I think it was about the same thing for about 3 or 4 years in a row, and then just got a new one and did that for a couple of years. So yeah, a lot of good Halloween stuff on the Unlimited Range podcast. We weren't planning on it, but we actually did Unlimited Range and Limited Range Players of the Week, and they're both Halloween edition. So how about that?
and I have some football ideas too because if you want to segue into that.
Yeah, we got to get we for our loyal fans of the show for come for our football content. We'll cover quickly from last week. I will say this. I wanted to say this as soon as the game started. I did not know Bryce Young was playing. I thought it was
Oh, right.
Dalton's. I thought Dalton was at the helm. So I felt like an idiot as soon as I had locked in my Panthers pick because the doors blown off. So I lost that one. And who did you take last week?
I didn't. Well, we went head to head. I did not take a pick, but we were going to wash on the pick, but then Washington, for some reason, managed to complete a Hail Mary, and so it was a 3 point game. Chicago was going to win by three, and they ended up losing by three on the Hail Mary. So I did win the head to head because of the
Because
Bears'
of that guy on the
inability.
Bears. Because that guy on the Bears who was too busy taunting the fans to get back in the play and knock the ball down.
Yeah, I the there's a lot of limited range players in that game, and they all are on the Bears. And it could start with Matt Eberflus. For like, what did they rush, three or four people? Like, you always blitz the Hail Mary. We talked last week about never use timeouts to save 5 yards. Always blitz the Hail Mary. Don't give them time to throw around, and then
Well, yeah,
also don't give them time to
I
throw
don't
a
know if you need to
5 yard pass.
I don't know if you need to blitz it, but I firmly agree. There's no reason if you always rush four at a minimum, four at an absolute minimum, and probably five. But there's no reason you should be like you and I talked about this. It's mind blowing. Like everyone hates armchair quarterbacking. You and I are not sitting here like I could be a professional football coach, but it's amazing how often some of these guys like just outsmart themselves on the most basic principles. It's like you just said it. They got to get their guys and time for the ball to travel 60 yards in the air. 60
Right,
yards in the air. So
right.
why on earth would you provide less pressure than you would on a normal play? Like why would you like? Why would you? What is the thought process at all
I
for
don't
like we're
understand.
gonna let this guy launch this ball? Like, because who cares? Like, oh yeah, we have more defenders down there. Who cares? Guess what? If you send five, they're not even gonna be able to get that pass off. They're not gonna be
You're
able to
right,
get that pass
right,
off.
right. That's the whole point. You get the ball, get them to throw the ball before they get to the goal line,
And
and
then
that
rally and tackle. I
right,
mean, because like here's what I said this to you. If you were sending six and you made it clear you're sending six, they wouldn't be able to put five wide out there and run them. They'd have to bring somebody in and block. And if
right.
you had six on the line of scrimmage, you could still put five in the end zone. So, and they wouldn't be able to run five wide or four wide. They'd have to bring in a tight end or put a running back in there to chip. And they'd probably only be able to send three receivers down, maybe four receivers down, and you'd have them manned up. And you'd have an errant throw because he wouldn't be able to run around back there for 7 seconds and just get a throw off. It's crazy. Limited range
No, it
limited
is.
range performance of the week
It,
is to whoever had whoever made the final decision that they were going to rush three.
yeah, and I think they might have rushed four, but still, I still would go
Still,
five or potentially even six because I mean, if or five in a spy because where's what likely you're going to flush him out of the pocket and let the spy go after him. We could talk about this for a while. Let's not bother. But
who's your
on the
unlimited
other one,
range?
I got a tricky unlimited range player of the week that I thought, and my choice for that is Jameis Winston. I thought Jameis came in and played really well. He at the end of the game, I don't know if you watched the end of the game. He pretty much threw an interception to their safety Kyle Hamilton. He dropped it, and
Yeah,
old Jameis got right back on that horse and threw it right back downfield. Scored a touchdown. The Browns win. He seems like a really he's worked hard to keep relevant in this league. And I thought it was, it seemed like a lot of people happy for him. I'm one of them. I don't know a lot about Jameis, but I thought that was a really savvy game, and he just kept chucking the ball, and he was going to chuck it to the end, and that's kind of what I think of it
well,
when I think of unlimited range.
Jameis is like you would like to see more teams have a. I'm confused why more teams, and I'm not saying there's not a million of them out there, but he's the type of guy feel like most of these teams should have as a backup quarterback, somebody that when they have to come in, you don't immediately think your season's over. Um, and yeah, happy for him because I think you never know these people, like you're not friends with them, you don't know what really goes on behind the scenes, obviously, but from all accounts, he just seems like a super positive guy, a guy that's I've seen interviews and stuff that he does. He's hilarious. He's really funny.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and yeah, seems like a good guy. So good guy for unlimited range player of the week. Um, before we get to our picks for this week, I did want to ask you what you thought of. I have my take on it, but and not that anybody needs our takes necessarily that's watching this, but it's just interesting. I think the whole Anthony Richardson thing is getting blown entirely out of proportion.
In
Um,
which way?
just in the way that 20 years ago, this would be a virtual non-issue, and I think today, these things get just blown up like to the just way way out of proportion, like, and when I say that, I think, and again, for anybody who watches this who doesn't watch the NFL, he has to out of the game for like a play or two, after he had like two consecutive scrambles, and then they asked him about it and he said he was tired. And I want to be clear, you can't do that. The coach absolutely, and the players, the captains, absolutely. What happens there is you call him in and you say like, "You're the face of the franchise. You're, we're working our asses off, and nobody else on this team's asking for a playoff. You're not going to do that either." Like you absolutely tell him that doesn't fly. But this whole thing, like where they're saying he's now a bust and he needs to, he shouldn't see the field again this year, and you know, like just complete blowing this thing, like blowing the top off this thing. I think that's completely overkill, and I don't know if you agree or.
I don't. I did not watch that game. I actually saw the last part of it, and he had one of the. I just think they're really not using him very well. They're not calling the right plays for him, and he doesn't seem to have a high football IQ. I mean, Jaden Daniels gets praised for his high football IQ. So I guess if you're going to praise one person, Anthony Richardson. there was 40 seconds on the clock, no timeouts. He scrambles and stays in bounds when he could have just ran out of bounds. I see plays like at the end of the first half, he threw a pick six. They could have gone to the locker room, and they're on their own 10-yard line. He throws it straight to somebody. So, but I also don't. I think part of that's on Shane Steichen for calling a pass play, but they're clearly not using him the right way. A couple weeks ago he was injured, came out, went back in. They ran him again, and he got injured again. It just seems like for some reason it's like an RG3 thing for me. It's like they're just going to play until they just kill this guy.
Well, the
And
one thing
I
I
don't think
saw
he's.
too.
I thought he was a poor draft boy. He was. He shouldn't have been drafted number 4
Well, the
overall.
thing is, the thing that's frustrating about some of this stuff is, I feel like I saw somebody say this somewhere, and I agreed. You can't take it's growing upsetting how impatient some of these fan bases and coaching staffs and people are in management and so forth when they take use draft capital on a guy, and it doesn't even just have to be a quarterback. I'm not just talking Anthony Richardson here. I'm talking any of these guys that are looked at as a semi project, and then when the project does things to reflect that they're a project and not necessarily pro ready in that exact moment, we just kill them. And I feel like I just feel like it's absolutely just totally backwards. Like Josh Allen, his first year or two in the league, made had a horrible completion percentage, ton of just dumb mistakes, and they just let him play through it up there in Buffalo. They coached him up. They worked with him. They didn't give up on him, and I think that's a huge part of his development to where he is now. And then you see some of these other teams. It's like they take a guy that is the common. Like everybody's saying during the draft process and everything, like this guy's going to be more of a project. He's not necessarily ready day one to be a superstar. He's got a lot of things he needs to work on. And then when the guy shows flashes of that, people are ready to throw in the towel. And I
Right.
just don't get it.
No, I agree with you. That you see a lot of that where somebody hasn't even started for a full season worth of games, like Anthony Richardson, and they're ready to just throw in the
Just ready
towel
to
on
throw
him.
him out with the bathwater.
Right.
Let's do our picks of the week, and then we will wrap it up with your trivia question here. And first off, this isn't. This is just kind of like a little aside. But who do you like in the game tonight? It's Texans Jets with a 1 point spread. This isn't a pick of the week or anything like that. I'm just asking who you like.
I have to like the Texans in that spot. I think CJ Stroud's regressed a little bit, but the Jets are just I don't they just can't seem to get out of their own way. I don't see that changing.
Yeah, yeah, I kind of agree. I don't know why the spread is so close. I don't want to. I don't want to pull another. I don't know if there's an injury there or something, but if it's really outside of obviously Nico Collins, but I don't know if there's something I didn't read about. But yeah, I'd have to think the Texans take care of business against the Jets team that's looked absolutely terrible. Um, but as far as picks of the week, I'll start it off. Looking at the lines, it's kind of challenging. There's a lot of larger spreads this week. There's a lot more. There's a lot of stuff I just don't really like. Um, I don't feel. I know. I don't ever feel super comfortable in the NFL taking touchdowns more than a touchdown usually, unless I feel really confident, just because of how good the players are. So I'm going to stick with for my pick. I know James. We just talked about Jameis looking pretty good, but Chargers minus 2.5 over the Browns. I feel like is a good pick for me. So I'm going to take the Chargers minus 2.5.
I'm just looking at this, and the one game that sticks out to me is I don't see how Chicago's favored going down to Arizona, and they're favored by a point. So I'm going to take Arizona.
Interesting because I have the Bears here. I actually have what I'm looking at here. I don't know if this is. It looks like it's right now. It's showing me as the Bears is 1.5 point underdogs, but um,
Yeah, this one says Chicago -1, so I don't know.
yeah, well, we
DraftKings.
can take that. I mean, we're not it doesn't it won't affect us to take that one. The other one I like that I'm not really going to take is the Rams are dogs. It looks like
Mm-hmm. No,
versus Seattle. Small
DraftKings has
dog.
them as a -1 too, so I looked
Okay.
at that game,
Yeah,
but
it's kind of hard when you. It's. I don't know if there's a website. If any of our viewers know of a website where you get down to the minute like aggregated betting lines, because it's kind of weird because all the books have different. All the books kind of have slightly different lines. So I don't know. I'm just using ESPN, but
I was
okay.
I
So pick.
wanted I did want to say I want to quick get to the. Do you think the trade deadline has an impact on any of these? Anything coming up? I think what we've seen so far. Chiefs added DeAndre Hopkins and John Uche, and Amari Cooper went to the Bills. Deontay Johnson went to the Ravens. Devontae went to the Jets. It'll be interesting to see what happens there tonight. You can watch that. And the Vikings picked up somebody to um, fill in for their injured offensive tackle. So, you think any of those guys are going to move the needle for those teams this week or going forward?
I don't know specifically, but I'm looking when I look around at some of the teams that I feel like could be on the market. There are quite a few teams that have started the season a little bit hotter potentially than or some teams that have started out a little bit slower than they thought they might. And I'm looking at like the Steelers
Mm-hmm.
are a team that's been pretty good so far. They've obviously got a really good defense, and Russell Wilson has looked pretty impressive in his first couple starts. And I feel like they could definitely use a weapon. Um, there's a couple other teams. The Niners have suffered some injuries. Could they be looking to add somebody? Buccaneers have suffered. Mike Evans went down and Chris Godwin went down, and I think there's a couple wide receivers. They threw Cooper Cup's name. The Rams threw his name out there. Wide
I have
receivers
to
seem to
think the way
be.
they looked last. I have to think the way the Rams looked last week. Takes Cooper Cup off the trade market, right?
You'd have to think so. I don't know why they would necessarily trade him. He seems like a guy that means a lot to that fan base, and I'm not. When I heard that, I was kind of
Yeah, it
confused
doesn't make any
why the
sense.
Rams would ever really be open to trading him.
Right.
But yeah, I think wide receiver could be a big one. And then usually, I think in years past, edge rushers tend to get moved around this time for teams that, um, are in contendership because you know how important it is down the stretch to have somebody who can rush the passer. So um, I don't know. I won't be surprised. I haven't really been surprised yet by the people that have been moved. So I don't know if there's going to be a big blockbuster move here, um, or if it's going to be mostly business as usual. But a lot of wide receivers have been moved, and I think it's possible maybe one or two more get moved for teams that are looking to add some weapons down the
Yeah,
stretch.
I'd like to think that Amari Cooper makes a bigger difference to the Bills than either Deontay Johnson or DeAndre Hopkins for the other two teams,
Yeah,
or
it's surprising the
Devontae
Ravens
Adams.
would go. It is surprising the Ravens would seek out based on what they've been able to do so far. Seek out. I mean, I like Deontay Johnson. I think that's a good pickup. Um, you don't necessarily expect them to go out and spend on a wide receiver the way that they run the ball and the way they've been able to make it work with the guys that they have. Um, okay, so we did. This was the Halloween edition, but
All
we're
of
gonna
the
spin it
unlimited
back. We did
range.
some football recap. We got our picks of the week. Let's remind the viewers one more time before we spin back to trivia question. So who did you take this week in your spread pick?
I was taking the Cardinals.
And I am going with who did I say I was going with? I said I'm going with the Chargers in that one -2.5. Okay. So we got our picks of the week. We got our unlimited range and limited range performers and our Halloween edition. So now
Yeah.
let's get to the trivia question of the week. Do you want to start with the bonus
Let's
or do you
start
want
with
to
the
start with
bonus. Do you have any idea who was the most, or what was the most popular costume for 2023?
most popular costume for 2023?
I'll give you a hint. It had to do with a movie franchise or movie
Movie
character.
franchise.
It wasn't really
What
a
was a
franchise. Franchise is the wrong word there.
movie character? It's probably going to jump out at me was I don't even remember the big movies that came out. Was it like a
Yeah, it's
superhero?
a female. It's no, it was not a superhero. It was a female character, non superhero. It
Non
was
super.
Barbie. It was Barbie.
Barbie.
Barbie was the most popular costume in
That makes
2023. And
sense.
then our most popular candy bar, not just for 2023, but for, I guess, recent vintage, we had either Snickers, M&M's, Reese's, or Skittles. You guessed Reese's Cups, and you would be absolutely correct.
I was gonna say I was pretty confident as soon as I heard the list because I think M and M's is definitely a sleeper. I feel like they're up there
Hmm.
on a year to year basis. Skittles, I think, is not.
No, I
I
think
can't.
that is. I think that's in it. I think the top three are Reese's Cups, Skittles, and M&M's in that order.
Really, that's it. That's
Yeah,
actually kind of surprising. I feel like,
I just think Skittles is the choice when you're not going chocolate. I think that's what.
yeah, it's almost in every variety pack. I think people
Right.
really do like Skittles. I think it's just something there. I think Big Halloween is trying to push Skittles. Honestly,
Hmm.
Big
Yeah. No, I think
Halloween.
the big candy companies are getting them in there.
Yeah,
Right.
they're really trying to get them in there. Okay,
All
well,
right.
this was the Halloween edition. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We did some little recapping of some trick or treat strategies, some limited range and unlimited range performers of the week when it comes to Halloween. We are on YouTube. This is episode 19. We're going to put this up. By the time you see this, it won't be Halloween anymore, but just trust us, it was Halloween when we filmed this. Do you have anything else before we let these
No,
guys get
that's
back to
it.
what they were
Just
doing?
enjoy your trick or treat night, and hope you had a great trick or treat night. And Penn State, Ohio State, early on Saturday, big game.
Big college football weekend. Enjoy your
Yeah,
trick or
get ready.
treat.
Yeah,
And if you're one of those people giving out pencils, knock it off. We
stop
will
it.
uh, we will catch you guys later.